I think I'm going to try a new thing where I just sort of ramble about stuff that I've been thinking about when I drive. But I won't mess with the camera. I won't mess with the phone or anything. I promise. I'll be safe. Um, 10 and 2, both eyes on the road kind of a deal. But something that's really been going on in my head lately is just these differences in how young men and young women, young boys and girls really are socialized in the world, and how it causes our autistic traits, our neurodivergent traits, to really demonstrate differently out in the world. And so many young boys, where they get frustrated or whatever, they get slapped with ADHD, which in many cases I'm sure it's true. But the way that you mask and the way that you end up melting down, everybody's like, oh, well, he's just got ADHD. And then you have these young women, our young girls, oftentimes, where it's like, oh, well, no, she's not autistic. She just has anxiety or depression. Does she have anxiety or depression? Or, does she mask so hard that it's frustrating, it's exhausting her, and now the world is too much, and now she's depressed and anxious all the time because of the fact that, her autistic needs aren't being met? And it's the sort of frustrating way that we all end up going through the world, almost across the board, not getting the things that we actually need. And I heard one creator talking, I can't remember the name of her, but she was saying that, like, one of the reasons that her diagnosis was missed so often, like, her psychiatrist ultimately told her, or psychologist rather, ultimately told her that she was too good at masking, because her previous, the previous people that tried to give her assessment said, well, look, oh no, you can't be autistic because have you answered XYZ such and such a way. And it wasn't until I think the third time that she had the assessment that the person proctoring it essentially started breaking down, like, I think you're masking. I need you to actually answer me these questions. And started really, like, picking apart the way that she answered those questions so that she would ultimately answer them genuinely. And was like, yeah, you are a painfully high masking autistic that has been doing this for, I want to say the woman was like 35 or something, right? And it's, just to sort of, ramble, that masking, like, not only makes people think alternate realities about us that are fundamentally not true, but we end up wearing those masks so well that, and I talked about this in a small video recently, we end up wearing those masks so well that, like, hell, like, we don't even know who we are, much less the people that are around us. And so when we finally start dropping that mask, they don't know what to do about it. They don't know the person that's right in front of them. And I was on the treadmill this morning at the gym, and if you've followed me and you've heard me talk, my brain, like, I like a metaphor, right? I like painting a picture to try to like, really sell a point. And in my head, I was thinking about masking. And for neurotypical people, masking is the equivalent of, like, wearing clothes, right? You wear a nice outfit, you do your makeup, you have your hair nice and done. You're still you, but you're an accessorized version of you. But for many of us as neurodivergents, when we put a mask on, it's like we're literally wearing a big rubber mask with our own face on it. But it's not us, right? And it's like if I put a mask on my face that looked exactly like me, but that mask lets me hang out at a party and not be crazy and not lose my, ever-loving shit. Or, that mask lets me deal with 14 hours of corporate meetings a week. It's still my face, but there is nothing outward that is touching the world that actually has a real, genuine connection to who I am on the inside, other than how it looks. And, you try to explain this to neurotypical people, and they just, oh, well, yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. And they can't. It would be like a white person telling a black person, that they understand what it's like to experience, systemic racism because they spent a summer in Japan and they weren't allowed to go to the bathhouse because it said no foreigners. It's like, buddy, you don't you don't even understand this on the most peripheral level. Like, no, you don't understand what systemic racism is like. Even just pretending that you do is offensive. And I think that's the part that is often, again, so frustrating, because we are going through every single day having to put on these masks, having to burn the candle at both ends just in order to survive outside in the world. And when we let our mask slip, when we let our mask fall, they lose their shit on us. But then when we say, like, hey, because I've had to wear this mask, no, I don't want to go be friends this weekend. I don't want to hang out with anybody this weekend. I need recovery. Oh, why aren't you being a good friend? You're a bad person. You just want to go home and hang. And there's this, like, they want it both ways. They want to tell you to be your genuine self. They can't handle it when you do so. Not that, like, you're being mean or you're being rude. It's just so different. They don't like that you tell the truth all the time. They don't like that you're, linguistically, you're sort of cold and blunt and to the point, right? They're used to the way that you massage everything. So, they want that. But then when you give them that, they don't like what you need in order to recover from those experiences. And, like, again, I know this is just sort of an overall ramble on masking, but it's just been a lot of stuff that's been going through my head lately. And I have been so lucky. I felt so happy, I think is the way to put it, is the real, like, at the end of the day, like, I have kind of felt happy in a way that I haven't known that I could feel in a long time. The stuff where when my account, over on, TikTok had all those shenanigans and everybody was so helpful. Like, that just, with the world doing what it is, I feel like I've been able to be happier and unmasked in a way that I don't know that I've ever been able to. And I also know that's only because I don't, work a 9 to 5 job, right? I don't have to go to a place where I'm forced to do those things. And I know that at the end of the day, that can't last forever. But, like, holy shit. It's a real eye opener to just feel, again, not every moment of every day, but to just feel safe enough. I'm 45 years old, and for the first time in maybe my whole life, more than half the time over the last several weeks, I have felt safe and in a contented place. Like, again, I'm still, like, barely, scraping by. I'm not doing well financially, but I'm peaceful and unmasked. And if you've got people in your life that are, like, constantly trying to drag you into scenarios where you have to put that mask on, find the power to tell them you're just not interested in that. They either need to learn to understand why you feel the way that they do, or the way that you do, or they got to let go. Because I'm at a point in my life now where I can't do the fake anymore. And I've done it historically, and it's just, I can't mask like that. If I've got my headphones on, I'm disconnected. I'm not here to mingle. I'm not here to be friends, whatever the case may be. But I don't know, I've just been thinking so much, because I've been going to a new gym. I changed gyms because it's less expensive. And the gym has a lot of, I would say, like, younger people, 25 to 30, 35, younger than me at least. and it's the sort of like quintessential young, cool, hip people, and they move through the world so outwardly looking in, it looks fake, it looks artificial. The swagger is made up and not real. The way that they talk is not real. The if I took 20 of the men and lined them up, they all have the exact same haircut and the exact same facial hair. It's like you're living a completely fake, surreal existence. And it's really kind of had me unpacking my own masking. But, that's my ramble, I guess. I don't really have any more to say on the subject, I don't think. Um, but I don't know that I'll ever, like, I'll understand it. I feel like I understand it relatively well. But I don't think I'll ever completely unpack that process and how we navigate that out in a world that does not respect authenticity and also does not respect, when you give them the inauthentic version of you that they want, doesn't respect your need to recharge because of it. I guess. Thank you for listening to me ramble while I drive.